The First Contact. The year was 2257. Earth, after centuries of peace and technological growth, had become a thriving hub of human civilization. People lived their lives with a sense of normalcy, not knowing the dangerous fate that was about to befall them. It was a peaceful time, with cities filled with bustling markets, crowded streets, and skies filled with ships traveling from one continent to another. Humanity had settled into its rhythm, unprepared for the storm that would soon shake their world. The first warning came at dawn, when the calmness of the atmosphere was shattered by a strange signal, a frequency unlike anything that Earth's scientists had ever encountered before. The sound wasn't something they could easily ignore. It wasn't static, nor was it just random noise. It was clear, purposeful, and sent with a message. As the signal bounced off Earth's satellites, governments scrambled to interpret it. Some believed it to be a radio wave anomaly. Others thought it was just a natural space phenomenon. But no one expected what was coming. Across the globe, alarms went off in research facilities, military bases, and government offices. A message had been intercepted from the deepest reaches of space. Humanity wasn't alone. The message was simple and chilling. Earth, we are the Galactic Empire. We demand your surrender. Failure to comply will result in immediate consequences. The world paused. It was almost laughable at first. Who could send such a message? The Galactic Empire. What did that even mean? Most people thought it was a joke, a prank from an advanced group of hackers, or a hoax aimed to stir fear. They could not fathom the scale of what was unfolding. But the governments knew better. They began to mobilize, and the situation grew tense. Hours after the message was received, the sky turned dark. No one knew why or how, but suddenly, all around the world, the sun seemed dimmer. The atmosphere felt different, as if something was blocking the light. People stared up in awe, wondering if this was some kind of meteor shower or cosmic event. But as they gazed into the sky, the answer to their confusion arrived in the form of something far more terrifying than any natural disaster. The Galactic Empire's fleet had arrived. It wasn't a single ship as they had expected. Instead, thousands of enormous ships, shaped like massive black clouds, descended through Earth's atmosphere. They were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Gigantic structures covered in strange markings and technologies beyond human comprehension. Their mere presence was enough to strike fear into the hearts of anyone who witnessed it. The ships didn't land, but hovered just above the Earth's surface, like dark, ominous sentinels. The city streets fell silent. People turned to each other in confusion, fear, and disbelief. What were they supposed to do? The news channels broadcast the footage live, showing the world how Earth's skies had been overrun by alien warships. As the ships hovered, the message from the Galactic Empire played again through every form of communication. The voice that spoke was cold, emotionless, and carried the weight of an unimaginable power. Surrender now, and we will allow your planet to survive. Resist, and your destruction will be swift and total. This time, the message felt different. It was no longer a distant, incomprehensible voice. It was a threat, a promise of destruction. The realization hit Earth like a wave. This was not a joke, and these were not just ships from another planet. This was an invasion. Back at the United Nations, world leaders scrambled for a response. Military officials began to prepare defenses, but they knew, deep down, that they were powerless. The ships above them, with their vast size and advanced technology, made Earth's most powerful weapons seem like toys. What could they do against this overwhelming force? The debate grew heated. Some leaders argued for surrender, believing it was the only way to protect their people. They were right to be afraid. The Galactic Empire's message had made it clear that if they resisted, there would be consequences, but there were others who refused to back down. They knew that humanity had faced challenges before and had come through stronger. This couldn't be the end of their story. A decision was made. Humanity would not surrender. Earth would fight back, but no one knew how. The fleet that hovered above Earth was too powerful, too vast. How could humanity ever stand a chance against such a force? In secret, deep beneath the Earth's surface, there was an answer. A hidden force, built long ago, had remained dormant for centuries. A weapon so powerful, it could change the balance of power in the galaxy. This weapon had been kept a secret, built during a time when Earth's leaders feared that one day they might face the unimaginable. It was humanity's final hope, and its time had come. The message from the Galactic Empire had not just demanded submission. It had given humanity the chance to prove something. A chance to show that they were not a planet to be crushed under the heel of a galactic empire. Earth was ready to rise. As the first ship of the Galactic Empire loomed closer, Earth prepared for a response. The world was about to learn just how far humanity would go to protect its home. The fight for survival had begun. The hidden power. As the looming alien ships hovered in Earth's atmosphere, the world held its breath. The massive black vessels cast long shadows over the cities, and panic spread like wildfire. Governments scrambled to make decisions, but no one had the strength or the answers to combat this unknown force. The Galactic Empire had made its demands clear, and humanity had made its response. But even the strongest military forces on Earth felt powerless in the face of such overwhelming might. Yet beneath the surface of all this fear and chaos, humanity held a secret buried deep within Earth's most guarded facilities. For years, no one outside of the highest levels of government had known about it. It had been hidden, forgotten by most, but not by those who had designed it. Deep in the mountains of the Swiss Alps, hidden away beneath layers of concrete and steel, the world's most brilliant minds worked tirelessly in a forgotten laboratory. Here, away from the eyes of the world, Earth's most ambitious project was kept alive. It was called Project Leviathan. Project Leviathan had been initiated in secret during the Cold War, a time when tensions were high and humanity's future seemed uncertain. The project's purpose was simple but daunting: create a weapon that could defend Earth from an outside force that might one day come, a force that would not stop until humanity was wiped out. The weapon was not just a ship or a fleet. It was a massive, state-of-the-art battleship that could rival anything in the galaxy. Built with Earth's most advanced technology, it was designed to protect the planet from any alien threat, and its creators had ensured that no one outside of a select few knew of its existence. Only the highest-ranking military officers and government officials were aware of its creation. The ship was a marvel of engineering. Its massive hull was constructed from a nearly indestructible alloy, capable of withstanding weapons far beyond anything Earth had ever faced. Its engines could propel it faster than the speed of light, and its weapon systems were so advanced that they made the most powerful Earth-based missiles look like fireworks. But what made Project Leviathan even more impressive was its self-repairing systems. If the ship were damaged, it could fix itself without human intervention. It was designed to be humanity's last line of defense, a weapon that would ensure the survival of the human race in the face of an unbeatable enemy. The leaders of Earth knew they had only one chance to stop the Galactic Empire, and it all hinged on the activation of Project Leviathan. But the ship had not been used in centuries. It had remained dormant, waiting for a time when its existence would be revealed, when the threat would be so dire that humanity had no other choice but to use it. Now, the time had come. In a hidden underground command center, the world's leaders gathered. They were nervous, unsure of what they would find when they activated the long-dormant ship. But there was no turning back now. The Galactic Empire was watching, waiting, and the fate of humanity hung in the balance. The command center buzzed with activity as technicians worked furiously to bring Project Leviathan online. The ship's systems had been kept in perfect condition, but even the most advanced technology needed a human touch to awaken it. They entered the final commands, and a low hum filled the room. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and a large monitor in the center of the room blinked to life. The screen displayed an image of the Leviathan battleship, sleek and dark, rising from the hidden base deep within the mountains. Its engines flared to life, and it was clear that it had awoken from its long slumber. A collective breath was held as the ship's systems came online. Its massive weapons array was fully operational, ready for combat. This was humanity's last hope. The leaders exchanged glances, their faces filled with a mix of awe and fear. They knew that once the ship left Earth's atmosphere, there would be no turning back. It would be a direct confrontation with the alien fleet, and there was no guarantee that the Leviathan would emerge victorious. But it was the only chance they had. Back on Earth's surface, the Galactic Empire waited, its ship still hovering above the planet. Their commanders watched the developments unfold, aware that humanity was about to make its first move. They had underestimated Earth, but now they would see what humanity was capable of. Meanwhile, the commanders aboard the Leviathan prepared for battle. Captain Sarah Caldwell, one of the most experienced and respected officers on Earth, had been chosen to lead the mission. She was calm, focused, and determined. She knew the stakes. The entire fate of Earth rested on her shoulders, and she would do whatever it took to protect her home. "Activate the main thrusters," Captain Caldwell ordered. "We're taking this fight to them." The massive Leviathan began to ascend into the sky, its engines roaring to life as it broke free from the gravity of Earth's atmosphere. It was a sight unlike any other. A ship that had been created to protect the human race, now soaring into space with a deadly purpose. As the Leviathan moved toward the alien fleet, Captain Caldwell looked out at the massive armada waiting in the distance. She could feel the weight of history pressing down on her, but there was no time for hesitation. She had made her choice. Earth would not be destroyed without a fight. "Prepare to engage," she said, her voice steady. "Let them feel the wrath of humanity." As the Leviathan charged toward the enemy fleet, the world watched with bated breath. This was the moment that would define Earth's future. The fight for survival had begun. The first strike. Captain Sarah Caldwell stood at the helm of the Leviathan, her eyes fixed on the view screen ahead. The massive alien fleet loomed in the distance, a terrifying array of ships that stretched beyond the horizon. They were like a dark cloud, hanging over Earth's atmosphere, their presence an ominous reminder that humanity was being tested. The Leviathan was humanity's last hope. It was humanity's only chance to defend itself from the alien empire that demanded Earth's submission. Caldwell couldn't afford to be nervous. She had trained for this moment her entire career, but now that it was here, she felt the full weight of her responsibility. The silence on the bridge was deafening as the crew prepared for battle. The whir of the engines, the soft click of controls being activated, and the quiet hum of the Leviathan's systems were the only sounds. It was a strange calm before the storm, a calm that would be shattered the moment the first shot was fired. "Captain," Lieutenant Turner, the weapons officer, spoke up. "Weapons are fully online. We are ready to engage the enemy at your command." Caldwell nodded. "Engage the enemy at maximum range. I don't want them getting any closer." The command echoed through the bridge, and the crew sprang into action. The Leviathan's massive weapon systems powered up, its cannons and energy beams locking into place. The tension was palpable. Humanity was about to show the galaxy that they weren't just going to roll over. They weren't going to submit without a fight. As the Leviathan closed the distance, Captain Caldwell's hand hovered over the trigger. Her heart pounded in her chest. This wasn't just a battle for Earth. It was a battle for humanity's survival. She couldn't afford to fail. Not when so much was at stake. "All hands, brace for impact," Caldwell shouted. The first salvo of enemy fire was incoming. The time for hesitation was over. Suddenly, the space in front of the Leviathan erupted with energy. The alien ships, sensing the threat, began firing their weapons, and the battle began. The Leviathan's advanced shields flared to life as it absorbed the first blast. The ship shook, but the impact was absorbed by its reinforced shields. It was built to withstand hits like this. "Return fire," Caldwell ordered. Lieutenant Turner's fingers danced across the console, and in an instant, the Leviathan's main cannons erupted with destructive force. The energy blasts streaked across the void, colliding with the enemy fleet with stunning accuracy. Several alien ships were caught in the initial barrage, their shields flickering before they exploded in bursts of flame and debris. The enemy fleet was massive, but the Leviathan was nimble, able to dodge incoming fire with a precision that surprised even its crew. The battle was fierce, with flashes of bright energy lighting up the dark expanse of space. Caldwell's eyes narrowed as she surveyed the battlefield. It was a blur of chaos, but she knew she had to stay focused. If the Leviathan faltered, it would be the end of everything. "We've taken down 2 of their ships, Captain," Lieutenant Turner reported. "But they're regrouping. They've got reinforcements coming in." Caldwell's mind raced. The enemy fleet was formidable, but the Leviathan wasn't just any ship. It was humanity's secret weapon. Its systems were designed not only to fight but to adapt, to learn and respond to the enemy's tactics. It had one advantage that no one else in the galaxy had. "Activate evasive maneuvers," Caldwell commanded. "Let's make them regret underestimating us." The Leviathan shot forward, its engines roaring to life as it streaked through the battlefield, narrowly avoiding the incoming fire from the alien fleet. The massive alien ships struggled to keep up, their larger size making them slower to maneuver. The Leviathan's weapons fired again, cutting through the alien ranks like a knife through butter. More explosions rang out as another alien ship was obliterated in a hail of gunfire and energy blasts. The sheer force of the ship's firepower was overwhelming, and the enemy fleet began to retreat, unsure of how to respond to the unexpected assault. "They're falling back," Lieutenant Turner reported, a note of disbelief in his voice. "Keep the pressure on them," Caldwell said, determination in her voice. "We need to push them out of our space. Show them that Earth doesn't bow to anyone." The Leviathan's firepower surged again as it unleashed another barrage of energy blasts at the retreating enemy ships. But just as they seemed to be gaining the upper hand, a new threat emerged from the depths of space, a ship larger and more powerful than anything Caldwell had ever seen. It was unlike anything Earth had ever encountered. "This is bad," Lieutenant Turner muttered. "That's their flagship." The flagship of the Galactic Empire emerged from the shadows, its size dwarfing the other ships in the fleet. It was a formidable vessel, heavily armored and equipped with weapons capable of destroying entire planets. This was the ship that commanded the fleet, and it had now entered the fray. The Leviathan had held its ground, but the battle was far from over. Caldwell's grip tightened on the controls as the massive flagship loomed ever closer. The battle was only beginning, and Earth's survival was still uncertain. "Captain, what are your orders?" Lieutenant Turner asked, his voice steady but filled with tension. Caldwell took a deep breath. "We're not backing down. Engage the flagship. Full power to all weapons. We fight until the end." The Leviathan's engines roared as it charged toward the massive flagship, and the crew braced for the next phase of the battle. The stakes had never been higher, and the fate of humanity rested on the shoulders of the crew aboard this one ship. As the 2 mighty ships closed in on each other, the world watched with bated breath. The final showdown between humanity and the Galactic Empire had begun, and only one side would emerge victorious. The final gambit. The massive alien flagship loomed before the Leviathan like a dark titan, its sleek metallic surface reflecting the fiery chaos of the battlefield. Captain Sarah Caldwell's heart raced. The flagship of the Galactic Empire was a beast of war, towering over everything else in space. Its firepower was unmatched, and its sheer size made it seem almost invincible. But Earth had no choice. Humanity's last hope rested in the hands of the Leviathan. "Captain, we're locking onto the flagship's weak points," Lieutenant Turner called out. His voice was calm, but the tension in the air was palpable. The crew knew what was at stake, and everyone on board was fighting for their lives. "Take us in, Lieutenant," Caldwell ordered, her eyes never leaving the enormous enemy ship. All guns, ready to fire. We can't afford to waste this shot. The Leviathan moved forward, its engines roaring as it closed in on the massive flagship. The air on the bridge was thick with the anticipation of the final confrontation. Every move, every calculation had led to this moment. "We've identified their shield generators," Captain reported Lieutenant Hargrave, the ship's engineer. "If we hit them directly, we might have a chance of taking them down." Caldwell nodded. "Fire all forward cannons on my mark." The tension was unbearable. The Leviathan's cannons powered up, and the crew braced themselves for the assault. For a moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath. In that heartbeat, everything seemed to slow down. Earth's survival was hanging on the edge of a knife. One wrong move, one missed shot, and humanity's last hope could be gone in an instant. "Mark!" Caldwell shouted. The Leviathan's cannons fired with a deafening roar. Energy blasts shot toward the flagship, streaking through the void of space with pinpoint accuracy. The first few shots hit the flagship's shield, causing ripples of energy to ripple across its surface. The enemy flagship's shield flickered, but it held, at least for the moment. "Direct hit on their shields," Lieutenant Turner reported, but his voice was strained. "Their shields are still up, but we're starting to weaken them." Caldwell's fingers tightened on the control panel. She could feel the weight of the moment. The Galactic Empire had underestimated humanity once before, and now, with the Leviathan's firepower, they were starting to feel the pain of that mistake. But it wasn't enough. The flagship's shields were holding firm, and its massive weapon systems were beginning to fire back. "Brace for impact," Caldwell shouted. The Leviathan shook violently as the flagship fired a devastating energy blast at close range. The ship's shields flared brightly, absorbing much of the impact, but the force was still enough to rattle the entire crew. Alarms blared as the ship's internal systems were pushed to their limits. The hull groaned under the strain. "Shields at 30%, Hargrave shouted. "We need to get their shields down before they tear us apart." "Keep firing, Lieutenant," Caldwell barked. "All guns, concentrate fire on their shield generators." The Leviathan's weapons powered up once more. This time, the fire was more focused, more intense. Energy blasts slammed into the flagship's shield, each hit weakening it further. Sparks flew across the screen in front of Caldwell as the shield's energy began to flicker. "Direct hit." Turner's voice rang out with relief. "Shields are down." "Now's our chance," Caldwell said, her voice steady. "Fire everything we've got. Target their engines. We take out their engines, and we cripple them." The Leviathan's cannons unleashed their fury, firing blast after blast, hitting the vulnerable sections of the alien flagship. The massive warship began to shudder and tilt as it tried to regain control. But it was too late. The Leviathan's shots found their mark, and with a deafening explosion, the flagship's engine core erupted into flames. The enemy ship trembled, its systems failing one by one. The once proud flagship of the Galactic Empire began to fall apart, unable to maintain its stability. Pieces of its hull were torn away as explosions ripped through its structure. The flagship was no longer a threat. "We did it," Lieutenant Turner said quietly, the exhaustion evident in his voice. Caldwell allowed herself a brief moment of relief before refocusing. The battle was far from over. The remaining alien fleet was still present, and they wouldn't simply give up after losing their flagship. The Galactic Empire might have lost their most powerful ship, but they still had an army to deal with. "Status on the rest of the fleet?" Caldwell asked, her eyes scanning the redouts. "Remaining ships are retreating," Lieutenant Hargrave reported. "They're in disarray. We've dealt them a significant blow." For the first time since the battle began, a glimmer of hope flickered on the bridge. Humanity had struck back. Earth had shown the galaxy that it would not be subjugated, that humanity was capable of fighting with the same strength and determination as any of the mighty empires across the stars. "We've crippled their fleet," Captain Turner said, disbelief in his voice. "We might have just won this." Caldwell wasn't ready to claim victory yet, but she knew they had made a statement. The Galactic Empire had come to Earth, demanding surrender, expecting compliance, and they had been met with resistance like they had never imagined. And the battle wasn't over yet. But for now, the first victory was theirs. Humanity had fought back, and they had won. The Empire's last stand, the aftermath of the flagship's destruction, had left the galaxy on edge. The alien forces, reeling from the loss of their most formidable warship, scrambled to regroup. The massive void of space was now a battlefield littered with the wreckage of the flagship and the remaining warships of the Galactic Empire. The Leviathan, still battle-worn but intact, hovered above it, all like a predator watching its prey. "Captain, the remaining ships are trying to reorganize," Lieutenant Turner reported, his voice calm but filled with an undercurrent of disbelief. "They're retreating into formation, but it's clear they're in disarray. We've hurt them badly." Caldwell stood at the command console, her eyes locked on the image of the alien fleet. It was hard to believe how much had changed in such a short period. Less than an hour ago, the Galactic Empire had been imposing its will on Earth. Now it was on the defensive, struggling to maintain its footing in the wake of a devastating blow from humanity. "Are they retreating or preparing for a counterattack?" Caldwell asked, her gaze narrowing. She couldn't let her guard down. Even in disarray, the Empire was still a force to be reckoned with. Turner's fingers flew over the control panel, analyzing the movements of the remaining ships. "They're not retreating, Captain. They're positioning for a final strike. It's like they're trying to buy time for reinforcements to arrive." Caldwell's heart sank. The Empire wasn't going to give up easily. The battle might have shifted in humanity's favor, but the war was far from over. The alien fleet might have suffered heavy losses, but they still had the resources to make one last desperate attempt to crush Earth's resistance. "Captain," Lieutenant Hargrave interjected, "we've received a distress signal from Earth's outer colonies. They're reporting heavy enemy presence. Reinforcements are on their way. We can't afford to let the Empire regroup. They'll have us surrounded." "How much time do we have before the reinforcements arrive?" Caldwell asked, her mind racing. "Less than 30 minutes, Hargrave replied. "We need to hit them hard before their reinforcements can join the battle." Caldwell knew what needed to be done. The Empire had made one critical mistake, underestimating humanity's will to fight. Now it was time to show them that Earth would never back down. This was their chance to end the conflict once and for all. "Prepare the Leviathan for another assault," she ordered. "We're going to strike at their command ship. If we can take down their leadership, the rest of their fleet will scatter. This ends today." The crew sprang into action, moving with practiced precision. The Leviathan had already proven itself as Earth's deadliest weapon, but this would be its most daring move yet. They were going straight for the heart of the Empire's remaining forces. "All systems online, Captain," Lieutenant Turner called out. "We're ready to engage." "Good," Caldwell said, her voice steady. "Take us in." As the Leviathan powered up for the assault, Caldwell's mind flashed back to the moment when the Galactic Empire had first demanded Earth's surrender. They had underestimated humanity then, believing they could break Earth's spirit with a simple order. Now, humanity was showing the Empire what it truly meant to provoke the human race. The Leviathan's engines roared as it shot forward, cutting through the black expanse of space like a blade through the void. Its cannons hummed with power as they locked onto the command ship of the remaining Empire fleet. The Empire's ships tried to regroup, but it was too late. The Leviathan was already in position. "All guns, fire," Caldwell shouted. The Leviathan's weapons unleashed a devastating barrage of firepower. The enemy command ship, a colossal structure that had once seemed invincible, now found itself under a hail of deadly energy blasts. Explosions rocked the vessel as its shields began to falter. The once pristine hull of the command ship was torn apart by the onslaught. The remaining alien ships attempted to provide cover, but they were no match for the Leviathan's superior firepower. One by one, the Empire's vessels were obliterated. The command ship, now heavily damaged, was beginning to break apart under the pressure. Direct hit on the command ship's central core, Lieutenant Hargrave reported, his voice filled with awe. "It's going critical, Captain. We've won." Caldwell allowed herself a brief smile of relief, but it was quickly replaced with a sense of responsibility. The battle was won, but the war was still ongoing. The Galactic Empire had suffered a crippling blow, but they were not yet broken. Earth had made its stand, and it had been victorious. For now. "We've done it," Lieutenant Turner said quietly. "They won't be able to recover from this." But Caldwell wasn't so sure. The Empire was powerful, and even in defeat, they would not go quietly. There would be more battles ahead, more struggles, but for the first time, humanity had shown the galaxy that Earth would not be pushed around. As the Leviathan slowly turned to survey the wreckage, a transmission came through the comms. "Captain Caldwell," a voice crackled over the line. "This is Admiral Kane from the Earth Defense Fleet. We've detected a massive alien force approaching from the edge of the galaxy. The war isn't over yet, but this victory is just the beginning." Caldwell's heart raced. The enemy might have been crippled, but the fight for Earth's survival was far from over. "This is only the beginning," she said to herself as she stared out into the vastness of space, "and we will not stop until we've won." The aftermath and the unknown. The silence after the battle was deafening. The once thriving space of the Galactic Empire, now nothing more than a field of wreckage, floated in the vast emptiness. The Leviathan hovered triumphantly, its hull scared but intact. The crew stood in stunned silence as they surveyed the destruction. Captain Caldwell stood at the helm, her eyes fixed on the fading debris of the Empire's once proud fleet. The momentary satisfaction of victory settled in, but there was no time to bask in it. Earth had won this battle. But the war was not yet over. "Status report, Lieutenant Turner," Caldwell commanded, her voice steady but with an edge of concern. Turner quickly checked the readouts on his console. "Captain, the fleet is in disarray, but we've inflicted massive damage. We've disabled over 70% of their ships. However, there are still a few remnants regrouping, and I'm detecting a large unidentified fleet gathering near the edge of the system." Caldwell frowned. "Reinforcements," she muttered, her eyes narrowing. The victory they had just won could be short-lived if the Empire's reinforcements arrived. "How much time do we have before they reach us?" she asked, her voice low but resolute. "Less than an hour," Lieutenant Hargrave responded, his voice tinged with urgency. "They'll be here faster than we can regroup." Caldwell clenched her fists, thinking quickly. The Leviathan had delivered a devastating blow to the Galactic Empire's leadership, but if the reinforcements arrived, the tide of battle could turn against them. "We need to prepare for the next wave," she said, her mind already calculating their next steps. "Tell the Earth Defense Fleet to gather all remaining forces. We'll need every ship at our disposal. This fight isn't over yet." Turner nodded and moved swiftly to relay the orders. As the crew worked to prepare for the oncoming threat, Caldwell took a moment to reflect on the magnitude of what had just occurred. The Galactic Empire had demanded Earth's surrender, and humanity had responded with defiance. But now, even in victory, there was no time to rest. "Captain," Lieutenant Turner called out, his voice serious. "We've intercepted a transmission from the Empire's remaining fleet. They're not calling for reinforcements. They're calling for vengeance." Caldwell's stomach churned. The Empire was angry, and if they had one thing in abundance, it was resources. Despite their losses, they could still muster a formidable force. Earth had just become a target, and the battle for survival was far from over. "Understood," Caldwell replied. "We've made a powerful enemy today, but we've also proven that Earth will never go down without a fight." As the crew worked, Caldwell could see the tension in their eyes. They had faced a terrifying force and come out on top, but the unknown loomed large. What if the Empire's vengeance was worse than anything they had faced so far? What if the reinforcements were stronger, more advanced, and prepared for the unexpected. "Captain," Lieutenant Hargrave interrupted her thoughts, his voice hesitant. "We've received another transmission. It's from Earth." Caldwell's heart skipped a beat. Earth was on the line. "Put it through," she ordered. A holographic image flickered into life, and standing before her was the image of Admiral Kane, his face grim. "Captain, this is Admiral Kane," he said, his voice somber. "I don't know how to put this, but we've just learned something that changes everything. There's something more at play here than just a simple invasion. The Empire, they were just the beginning." Caldwell's mind raced. "What are you saying, Admiral?" Kane's expression hardened. "The Galactic Empire was simply a tool. The real threat is far worse. The beings who control them. They have their eyes set on Earth now. And they're not coming to negotiate." The image flickered and the transmission cut out. The room was silent as Caldwell processed the chilling words. She had always known that there was more to the Galactic Empire than met the eye. But this was something else entirely. The Empire had been a weapon, but there was something worse pulling the strings from the shadows. It was not just a fight for Earth's survival, it was a fight for its very existence. "Captain, what do we do now?" Lieutenant Turner asked, his voice breaking the silence. Caldwell's mind raced. The stakes had just escalated beyond anything they had prepared for. If the real enemy was yet to reveal itself, then the fight was far from over. Earth had to prepare for the unimaginable, for an enemy unlike any it had ever encountered. The war for survival was only just beginning. "We fight," Caldwell said, her voice low but filled with resolve. "We fight like we've never fought before. We fight for Earth's future." The gathering storm. The fleet was ready. The Leviathan, Earth's most powerful warship, loomed at the front of the formation, flanked by Earth's remaining defense fleet. The hum of the engines was a constant reminder of the tension that filled the air. Every crew member, every officer, every soldier on board knew that the battle ahead would determine Earth's fate. Captain Caldwell stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the vastness of space. The stars seemed distant, cold. Her thoughts were with the battle they had already fought, the victory they had claimed, and the grim reality that awaited them. The Galactic Empire had been crippled, but something worse was coming. The Empire's reinforcements had not yet arrived, but Admiral Kane's transmission had made one thing clear: they were not alone in this fight. The real enemy, the ones who controlled the Empire, were far more dangerous, far more advanced, and they had set their sights on Earth. Caldwell's thoughts were interrupted by the voice of her first officer, Lieutenant Hargrave. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. It's a high-priority message." Caldwell nodded, stepping forward. "Put it through." The familiar image of Admiral Kane flickered to life on the screen, his face even graver than before. "Captain, we've confirmed it. The beings behind the Galactic Empire's reign are the Xylor, an ancient race of conquerors with technology beyond anything we've ever encountered. Their fleet is nearly ready to launch, and we estimate they'll arrive in 3 days. 3 days. Caldwell felt the weight of those words. 3 days to prepare for an enemy who had destroyed civilizations and left nothing but ruins in their wake. 3 days to gather forces, to devise a strategy, to stand against the unknown. "We can't wait for them to arrive. We need to strike first," Caldwell said, her voice steady, though her heart pounded in her chest. The stakes had just been raised. The enemy was no longer just the Galactic Empire. It was a force that had the power to wipe Earth off the map. "We'll need more than just the fleet," Admiral Kane replied. "The Xylor are not like the Empire. Their power comes from their technology, from their mastery over space. We're going to need everything we have and then some." The transmission ended abruptly, and Caldwell turned to her crew. "Prepare for the most important mission of our lives. We don't have 3 days to waste. We move now." As the crew sprang into action, Caldwell's mind raced. What kind of weaponry could they use to fight the Xylor? What strategy could they employ to defeat an enemy whose power was beyond their understanding? They had no choice but to act, to confront the threat head-on. "Lieutenant Turner," Caldwell called out, "I want you to begin gathering intel on any ancient weapons or technologies that may help us. If these Ylor are truly as powerful as they seem, we need to be ready for anything." Turner nodded, moving quickly to the data systems. "Yes, Captain. I'll get right on it." Caldwell turned to Lieutenant Hargrave. "Get me a full assessment of our fleet. I need to know what we're working with." Hargrave immediately began typing commands into his console, his fingers flying over the keys. "I'm on it, Captain." As Caldwell observed the rapid response of her crew, she couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Humanity had already faced the unknown and triumphed, but this new threat was unlike anything they had ever encountered. The Tylor would not be defeated easily, and time was against them. Minutes passed like hours. The crew worked tirelessly, pulling together every available resource, every scrap of information they could find. Caldwell knew that the next few days would be the most critical of their lives. They had to move swiftly and decisively. After what seemed like an eternity, Lieutenant Turner approached with a datapad. "Captain, I found something. It's a legend from Earth's ancient past, a weapon rumored to be capable of destroying entire fleets with a single strike. It's been lost for centuries, but the coordinates point to a planet deep in uncharted space." Caldwell's eyes narrowed as she examined the data. "This could be the key to turning the tide in our favor." "How far is the planet from here?" "Several days' journey," Turner replied. "But if we leave immediately, we can get there in time." Caldwell hesitated for only a moment. "Prepare the fleet. We're going after it." As the crew began preparing for the perilous journey, Caldwell stood by the bridge's viewport, gazing at the stars once more. The storm was gathering, and Earth was caught in its path. But she knew one thing: humanity would not go down without a fight. The Leviathan moved into position, and the fleet followed, plunging into the unknown. Every ship, every soldier, every crew member knew what was at stake. The Tylor were coming, and humanity would meet them head-on, with everything they had. For Earth, for survival.